Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm very excited to welcome you to our virtual career fair preparation workshop. My name is Matthew. Here with me also is my colleague Kristen, and we are here from the Career and Professional Development Center. I just wanted to highlight to you some key points. One is that we would invite you to be as interactive as possible in this workshop. So we encourage you to, when appropriate, unmute yourself to ask questions directly. We'll also have the chat feature available, and we will be monitoring it throughout the presentation, one or the other of us. So we encourage you to use that to engage. And we'd also like you to consider being as active as possible, just as you would do at an actual job fair. The value in this workshop really does come from you and the questions that you offer. So we want to encourage you to do that as you think through some of these concepts. Other note important for you, we will be recording this session. We're doing so both to let you review some of the concepts here, as well as some of the people who've not been able to join us here today. And we will have this available on the Canvas course, which is Career Launch. So next, I'd like to give you an agenda for today. So we are really going to emphasize some key points, one of which is that preparation is really key to be successful in this event. So we'll give you some strategies to practice and review your professional introduction, sometimes called an elevator pitch, sometimes called a professional introduction, and we'll go over that in a moment. We'll also give you an overview of the platform that we'll be using, CareerEco. It requires some information ahead of time to make you be successful and use this event. We'll also give you strategies to utilize after the fair, including follow-up. And again, your questions will devote time for it at the end, as well as anything that might come up during the chat. We also want to give you a friendly reminder to use some of the resources that are available to you. This is the Handshake platform. We have lots of events that you can look at. Career fairs is one of them, information sessions, other kinds of recruiting events and workshops. So we really encourage you to build it into your schedule to regularly check that, whether it's weekly or twice a week, and make sure that you mark down some of those things there. Also important to note is that you might be required to register in more than one system. So you might need to register in Handshake and CareerEco and Zoom. So just keep track and be organized in terms of what you're registering for so that you know how you can join the event. Another theme of ours, being organized. Next one. Sorry. So this is a virtual fair. There are elements of it that might remind you of an actual in-person fair, but there are some differences. You might be speaking with different kinds of people, like recruiters. You might be speaking with professionals, which could include people in a similar role, alumni, and it happens in a more conversational way or a written way. So that's why we really strongly encourage you to have some things all ready to go, prepared in written form, proofread, checked. It might be tempting to feel that this feels more like a chat, a little bit more conversational, but just as good practice as career consultants, we really advise you to err on the side of caution and be professional in your communication. So having some of those already ahead of time could be really helpful for you. So we'll talk again about the professional introduction, and then also think about some relevant projects and experiences from your resume that might be useful for you. We really encourage you to look to the employer for some of the next steps. A lot of things in this fair, just as they would in person or in any recruiting process, depend on the employer and how they ask for information from you. So that might include using the job board feature on CareerEco, which we'll talk about. It might include applying directly to their website. So use cross-referencing, look at websites, look at the information so that you are as prepared as possible for that. Okay, next one. And some of the good practice that we're going to talk about is do some of that prep ahead of time, have a target list of companies. Once you register in the career ecosystem, you'll be able to see those companies that are currently registered. Make sure that you've got your profiles as complete as possible. Some of them might even have applications ready to go. Again, it really depends on the employer, but check all of that up ahead of time. Another theme you'll hear about today is the resume being a critical document. Always has been, but it certainly will be in this case. Some employers might use it as a screening tool and a way to engage further with select students. So make sure that's as polished as possible, and we'll talk about some resources that can help you out with that. Again, you'll want to prepare that professional introduction, that self-introduction that we'll get some time to practice on, and just a reminder of some written questions to commonly asked questions that employers take, which are, tell me about yourself, why are you interested in this company or job, and some relevant skills and experiences for you. So now I'll turn it over to Kristen to talk in a little bit more detail about professional introductions. Kristen.
Great, thanks, Matthew. Hi, everybody. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of CareerEco, we wanted to just start with talking about the self-introduction, which is really something that you're going to be using throughout your experience with this virtual career fair and with many others. It's also something that you'll use in other career settings. It can be a good answer to the tell me about yourself question in an interview. When we someday get back to in-person networking, it could be a good elevator pitch. And if some of you have started to put together your LinkedIn profiles, it can also be good for that summary or that about section. So what is the framework for a self-introduction? It's really all about connecting your past experience to your current education and skills, and then your future career aspirations. So a good idea is to start with an introduction of yourself, your degree program of study, and maybe your anticipated graduation date, and whether you're looking for a full-time position or an internship. You can then talk about what relevant skills you're developing, maybe what things you're learning, and then move into talking a little bit about what you've done in your past. So maybe that's an internship, maybe you'll talk a little bit about research, or about classwork or projects that you've done on your own. And then finally, you want to wrap up with a sentence or two about how you can apply those things, those skills and that education and experience to a specific position of interest in whichever company you're talking to. Okay, so again, for this particular career fair, you're most likely going to start by a written self-introduction. So it'll be maybe 3 to 4 sentences in length, covering the things that I just talked about: your name, program of study, graduation date, your relevant experience, and then an indication of the specific position of interest. You can also let them know at that point whether this is a position you've already applied to, or you could ask if they have any relevant positions that are similar that are going to be posted in the future. And again, this is something that you're going to be texting in a private sort of like text-based chat to recruiters in this particular virtual career fair. So it's a really good idea to have this prepared and written out before the career fair starts. And that way you can copy and paste it and paste it into the chat boxes of each company room that you're entering. So once you are in a main chat room, which we'll get into in a few minutes, you may be invited then to a private one-on-one chat, but you'll want to have this basic self-introduction written and ready to go, because it's really what you'll use to introduce yourself each time you enter into a new room. All right, and so here's just an example of what that might look like. The present is really that first basic introductory sentence. Hello, my name is Yun Wen. I'm a senior majoring in statistics and data science, familiar with Python and R, and I'd love to learn more about your business analyst role. So when you're entering that very first room, that's an example of something that you can just copy and paste into each chat that you enter with a company representative. Once you're in that main room and you're talking to a representative in more detail, then you may want to go into some of these other parts of the introduction, talking a little bit about what you did in the past, and then again, reiterating what you're interested in doing for that company in the future. All right, so before we move on, I know there's some things going on in the chat, but are there any questions about the self-introduction? And feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Matthew, if you could take a look at the chat, I'm not sure what questions are coming in through there.
I answered one,
Okay.
and then there was one about there being a spoken portion for employers who do have a video feature that invites students for a personal chat. That could be a spoken feature. Thanks for that question, Krish. And then yes, the PowerPoint will be available after the presentation.
Yeah, so again, we're going to cover this in a few minutes, but each initial chat will be text-based when you enter that main chat room. But if you're invited to a private one-on-one chat with a recruiter, or if you initiate a private one-on-one chat with a recruiter, then it may be video-based. And in that case, this is something that you can say the way that you would when you're giving an elevator pitch at our old traditional in-person career fairs. All right. Okay, so what we have planned now is to give you all a chance to practice with each other. We do have a lot of participants in this session, so we're going to try to divide you into breakout rooms with maybe like 5 to 6 other people, and give you each a chance to practice your self-introduction with each other. So when you first go into your breakout room, maybe you can take like a minute or two to just think about what you might want to say. And then we're going to count on you all to really just dive in. This is a low pressure kind of situation where you're really just practicing with each other. So you can all take turns doing your personal introduction. Matthew, I may have to ask you to initiate the breakout rooms because I am not seeing that anymore on my toolbar. And I'm not sure why.
I can do that. About how many participants would you like per room, Kristen?
Yeah, maybe like, 6 or 7 per room. And we're going to give you all about 10 minutes total in the breakout rooms. So a few minutes to just think about what you want to say, and then about a minute for each person to give their self-introduction. And Matthew and I may float around and just kind of listen in.
Okay, I'm creating them now. Here you go.
Hello, Matthew.
Hi there. So really, this is not something I'm directing for you. It's a chance for you to practice together. Are there people that are taking advantage of that opportunity? I'm just popping into different breakout sessions.
Just to clarify, are we trying to practice like typing up our responses, or are we trying to say it out loud, or does it matter?
Since you don't have really a chat feature among each other, it probably makes the most sense to practice it out loud. Again, low pressure environment, you probably won't get a chance to do your whole presentation, but even a little bit of it, you'll do that with the fair itself. So here's a good chance to practice together.
I'll start us off. Hi everyone, my name is Sean Bender. I'm a rising junior in mechanical engineering here at Carnegie Mellon University. Outside of academics, I'm a student athlete on the varsity football team, and I am the vice president of Alpha Sigma Phi fraternity here on campus. I'm very interested in design engineering. This past summer, I was an intern with Stanley Black & Decker, where I worked on
Okay, we should be joining the session now. I think most of us have gone back to the main room. So the next important transition that we're going to make is to show you a little bit about the career ecosystem. So this video is going to be available to you. It is produced by the CareerEco platform, but it gives you a brief overview. It lasts about 4 minutes. So Kristen, would you mind starting that when you're able to?
Yes.
Great.
Just a second. Can you all hear this?
No, I don't see it either.
In 1 second.
Sure.
Sorry, Matthew, can you click on more and then share computer sound? Actually, I'm just going to do this a different way. All right. Can you hear this now?
I see it, but I don't hear it.
Contact details,
Oh, now
educational details,
All right,
document uploading, and email. For best results, please log in using an up-to-date version of Google Chrome or Firefox on a desktop or laptop computer. If you're participating in a virtual career fair, upload your resume. This isn't required for virtual grad school fairs. However, you may still upload your resume for organizations to review. You may edit your profile, which includes your contact details, educational details, document uploading, and email preferences. Before participating in the virtual fair, make sure you have reviewed and expressed interest in participating organizations. Click Event Details, and then Event Details Learn More. Click an organization's name to view their profile. Click the gray checkbox to indicate your interest in that organization, and as you can see, it will turn blue. The organizations you indicate interest in will be notified that you've done so. Review the chat schedule ahead of the fair to know when the participating organizations will be available. For job seekers, review the job board to see positions posted through the career ecosystem. You may receive messages from organizations participating in the event. The number of unread messages will appear next to the Messages tab. To enter the chat sessions on the event day, click Chat Now. This will take you to the Rooms area where you'll see a list of currently open chat rooms. Close and open the chat icons window as needed. This will help you identify any icons or symbols that you don't understand. Control sounds in the chat room by clicking on the speaker icon. Review organization names, chat room topics, and chat times to determine which rooms you'd like to enter. Also be sure to note the fair's time zone. Moderator Online indicates that an organization representative is online and available to chat. Click Join Chat to enter a room. Organization reps and other candidates are listed. You will see your full name, first and last. However, other candidates will only see your first name and last initial. And you will only see the first name and last initial of any other candidates who are in the room. Links to the organization's profile and various social media platforms may be available. Click the Files button to see if there are any downloadable files that the organization has provided. Messages posted to the main chat room are visible to everyone who is in the room. You can also read through conversations that have happened in the main chat before you enter the room. To private chat with an organization rep, click the blue arrow to the right of their name and select Invite to Private Chat. Once you send a message using the bottom chat message box that is opened up, the rep will receive an alert and be able to respond. Reps may also initiate a private chat with you, and you can go back and forth between each individual private chat by clicking on the rep's name. Keep in mind that some reps may choose to block private chats and answer all questions in the main chat. Though each fair is different, you can generally enter more than one room at a time. Click the Rooms tab and join another room by clicking Join Chat. Toggle between rooms by clicking on the tabs at the top of your screen. You'll receive alerts when you receive messages in a room that you're not currently in. A quick tip, only do this if you're able to efficiently concentrate on more than one conversation at a time. Otherwise, enter one room at a time. Organization reps may broadcast audio or video into the room, share their screen and audio to give a presentation, or invite you to have a one-on-one private video conversation. To be able to participate in these features, you must be logged in on a desktop or laptop computer using an up-to-date version of Google Chrome or Firefox. The multimedia features are not supported in other browsers. You can leave the room by clicking on the Exit Room button. If you need any help or have any questions during the fair, please click on the Need Help button to access our contact information.
Great. Thank you so much. And I just want to address a couple of questions that I saw in the chat since they're right on cue with where we are. Point of clarification. So when you go to Handshake and you look at the event, which in this case is the combination Encompass, TOC-Converge, they will list on that Handshake 3 separate listings for CareerEco for each day, the 14th, 15th, and 16th of September when the event is happening. So that will prompt you directly to register on the CareerEco system. So that's where you can access the platform. We'll go into detail a little bit now to make sure that it shows up. Key point is that you have to be linked with your education to Carnegie Mellon University, since this platform is used by other universities, but that's one point of it. And in terms of resources, on the Handshake listing for this workshop, we do have a couple of tip sheets that are on PDF. They're also available on our website when you browse resources and prepare for a virtual career event. And then we'll also have access to this PowerPoint presentation that has some of them in there. So thanks so much for asking about these resources. I wanted to make sure I address that one right now so we can look through CareerEco. Okay, if you're like me, you might be scared with how quickly he spoke and clicking here and there and everywhere. That means you're normal. I would recommend reading through the resources and then also looking at it a few times. It took me a few times, and it really is kind of hard to visualize unless you actually start clicking away yourself and going in that. So some key points on this slide: Google Chrome or Firefox, and use a laptop or a desktop. Unfortunately, this platform does not support other browsers, so make sure you've got some access to that, particularly for the video feature. If you look at some of these screenshots, I know they're tiny, but they do have a prompt for you to register as an individual. Key point for that, you'll want to make sure to verify your email address right away. You'll also need to be able to do so in order to be fully registered for that. And use your Carnegie Mellon Andrew IDs for all of that. Other things that'll prompt you to do are your resumes and other information. And again, make sure that you've clicked on Carnegie Mellon University for the degree. Otherwise, you won't be able to access and see the particular event. Okay, so on these 2 slides here, the kind of key point to look at there is really look through the employers that you're interested in. Side note, but an important note, if you're also like me, you might be eager beaver and immediately after the workshop look at CareerEco. Not all the employers that are planning to come have registered yet on CareerEco. They will be doing so shortly. So if you don't see your preferred employer, know that they will be signing up shortly, but you can still get started at that. Just as the example up there, If you were interested in a particular employer, on the right-hand screenshot, that first company, made-up name, ABC Industries, they've clicked the box that was gray and made it blue. That means that you're interested in them. So really make sure, two important pieces of information, that you are clicking on the box to show interest and that you are uploading your resume. Resume will be useful for employers to field candidates, and the check the box, they might also filter by who happens to be interested in the company itself. There are some other features on this website. You'll see that job board listed. We have strongly encouraged our employers to put that in Handshake, but humans being how they are, you should really look in, I would say, 3 places. Look in the job board, look in Handshake, and then look directly on the company website, because they may be in one or all 3. So make sure to keep checking for those different pieces of information. And then there are messages that are possible for employers to give to you. I don't want you to be overwhelmed by that. There is a time schedule that they come out. It's only twice a day. It's at, if just for your interest, it's at 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. So unlike with email or other messaging systems, you don't have to check that constantly. You could just check it at a couple of moments and then move on and get ready for the next one. Let me just pause there because it is really text heavy and there's a lot of information. I saw some chat things happening. Anything you want to draw my attention to, Kristen, in this moment that's related?
So Tate asked if everybody has registered on Handshake companies-wise, and the answer is we have about 100 companies who have registered so far. However, they don't all have their booths created in CareerEco yet. And we are expecting more companies to register between now and the actual event.
Let's see some other ones I see coming up here. Right, and this will be uploaded to Canvas, this particular recording. Someone asked about the 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. These are messages. If an employer wanted to chat with someone on their schedule, they might send you a message, and they only do so as a group through the system at those 2 times. That's the only info I was saying about that message feature. Okay. Feeling okay with that? Okay. That slide that Kristen just showed was a company booth. Do you mind go on that for just 1 second, Kristen? Thanks. This is kind of like the traditional one where they've got their wonderful things set up, minus the grab bag handouts. And this has more information about the company. The company puts it up themselves, so some might be more complete than others. And this is, again, a good chance for you to do that kind of cross-referencing research that I mentioned of look at company websites, look at their booths, because different people in companies are required to do different things. So some of them might have more complete information, and you just want to be as prepared as possible, particularly for those key employers on your target list. Okay, yep, you can pop to the next one, and Kristen's going to tell you a little bit more about engaging with employers before and during the fair. Kristen.
Right, yeah, so really before we get into a lot of these logistics, I think it's really important before the fair to think about what your goals are, right? What are your goals for this virtual career fair? Maybe there are certain employers that are really high priority for you that you want to make sure that you have a chance to talk to. And you're gonna clear your schedule and go to those employer chat rooms first. Also keep in mind though that not every employer in this virtual career fair may have an open job that you're interested in right now. But employers are using this virtual career fair as an opportunity to engage with you, to get to know you, and to build a pipeline of candidates for when they do have more open jobs. So you should also look at this event as an opportunity to network. So maybe part of your goal is, you know, after you've talked to your high priority companies, you'll set a goal to speak to at least 10 other company representatives each day. And again, it's up to you to set that goal. But do keep in mind that you'll want to meet employers and get information for what opportunities may be posted in the future. All right, so during the virtual career fair, remember that there is a chance that you will be doing a video-based chat with somebody. So use headphones with a microphone if you have access to one. If not, you know, the microphone on your computer should be just fine. Try to be in a space that's quiet and well lit. You know, if you have roommates and animals and crazy construction going on outside, do your best to find a space that is quiet and free of distraction. You'll also want to dress and groom as if you were going to an in-person interview, you know, just in case you do happen to be invited into one of those video chats. So dressing professionally, you know, no pajamas. And really, I think also just emotionally and psychologically, when you're dressing professionally, it kind of puts you in that mindset. Really important is when you're doing your text-based chats, keep your sentences professional, right? So you should be using complete sentences and capital letters. These aren't the kinds of texts that you might send your friend over your mobile phone, right? This is more like an email than it is like a text message to a friend. And then also really important is to keep notes of who you're interacting with, right? So this could be a fairly chaotic experience, right? If you're having multiple chats going on with different company representatives, you'll want to maybe have a notebook next to you where you're writing down the company name, the representative that you're talking to. And if you have a chance during your chat, ask if they wouldn't mind sharing their email address with you, because it's going to be really valuable to you after the fair to have a person to follow up with, right? When you do submit your application, if you can then go and email that person that you met in the virtual career fair, that could be really helpful. And then finally, you know, just you've all been doing Zoom like we have for the last, you know, 6+ months. So you're probably pretty familiar with Zoom etiquette, but you want to try to maintain that eye contact with the camera. Sometimes it can help to elevate your laptop with a couple books, to move the video image to so that it's right under the camera. So since that's naturally where your eye tends to go. And then we have some fun examples of what to do and what not to do. Again, we really do realize that everybody has their own unique situation and that it may not be possible to be perfect when you're doing your Zoom interviews. So do the best you can. You know, if your space isn't perfectly lit, and you know, or if you have to, for whatever reason, you know, be in a comfortable chair, not sitting completely upright, it's okay. So just do your best, but in general, try to avoid like leaning up really close to the camera. I don't want to do it right now. Think about like if there's a window behind you or a really bright light behind you, it's going to make you look like this like dark and kind of creepy shadow. So that's something that you'll want to try to avoid. I see a lot of times, you know, even when I'm talking to, you know, sometimes with coworkers, your camera inadvertently gets tilted up and it cuts off like half your face. So just be aware of that. And then think about what's behind you, right? So you don't really want anyone to see what's in your closet, I don't think. So try to keep the background, you know, basic and simple if possible. Any questions before we move on? All right. So we're going to get into another one of these like text heavy and slightly overwhelming screens. But again, as Matthew said, it does take some time to digest this stuff. So watch the video a few times. We will share this PowerPoint. We'll attach it to the event in Handshake so that you'll all have access to it. We have the tip sheets, and once registration is officially open for both students and employers, so you can go ahead and go in and start to play around and see how things look in the actual platform itself. I think it was Katie, did someone raise their hand? It sort of briefly flashed on my screen and then disappeared. But if someone has a question, please feel free to unmute and ask. Okay, we'll have a big Q&A at the end anyway. So you'll see on this screen how to join a chat. So once you're in the rooms, on the rooms tab on the day of the event, there'll be a button that you can click to join one of those main rooms. So when you click this orange button, you are being taken to the group chat, okay? So this is where you'll view all of the organization reps on the left. Let's see if I can show you right here, right? And then you'll also be able to see all of the chat participants. So you'll be able to see the first name and last initial of the other students who are in that room. In a group chat, it may be the case that there are a ton of students. I think the max is 100. And anything that you type in that group chat room, other students will be able to see. So it's perfectly fine to type your self-introduction that we talked about before, but do keep in mind that you kind of, you want to be basically brief, concise, polite, because this message is out there for everyone to see. If the chat room is full, so if there are 100 students in there, then you won't be able to enter yourself. In that case, you're gonna just have to keep tabs on that room to see when it's available. So this is not like an in-person career fair where if a room is full, then you get into a queue. There is no queue, there are no lines. So when a chat room is full, it's up to you to just kind of keep tabs to see when you might be able to enter. You can enter up to 3 rooms at a time, but I will issue, like if I had a bright red warning light, I would flash it right now, because when you're in multiple chat rooms, you're gonna have to be responsible for keeping track of multiple conversations. I know for me, like I have a hard time keeping track of like the chat in the Zoom while I'm giving this presentation, so I don't think I would be able to chat with like 3 different recruiters at the same time. You don't want to accidentally send a message that says, I'm so excited to work for Google, and then find out that you're actually chatting with Apple. So if you are going to do that, it's fine. Just, make sure that you're really paying attention to who you're talking to before you're just firing off messages. So there are, as I said, there are no lines either to get into a room or once you're in a room. The company reps will be having multiple conversations with students. Students may be having multiple conversations with company reps. And so what may happen is that you send a message to a rep and there's a slight delay before they respond to you, because they may be responding to another student. So it's sort of it's a more dynamic experience, and it's really not at all like an in-person career fair where it's very linear. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is that you may be invited by a rep to a private one-on-one chat. So this was in the video, but when you are invited over here on this slide, you'll see a yellow box appear. In order to accept a private chat from a company rep, you'll want to just click onto that rep's name, and then you'll see a drop-down box. And that drop-down box will say, will give you the option to accept the private chat. And I think I may have, let me move on to this one. Here we go. So this is what it looks like. If you can see this, it'll say, so you'll accept the private chat. And then once you're in that private chat, another chat box will appear below the main chat box, and that's where it'll just be you and that rep. Other people will not be able to see that chat. And it's also possible that the rep may invite you to do a video chat when you're on a one-on-one basis. So just be ready for that. there is also an option for you to initiate a private chat with a rep. If the rep has enabled you to do that, some may block it, some may not, but if you're able to do that, it is a good way to be seen. So you can initiate a chat with a rep. Just keep in mind that they may not respond immediately, right? If they're already engaged in a private chat, they won't be able to respond. But when they do respond, you'll get a notification letting you know. Okay, and that works the same way. Click on the rep's name, you'll get the drop-down box and it'll say invite to private chat. Also mentioned in the video, these, where are they? These links above the rep names, that's links to their social media, but there's also a files button here. Maybe a good idea, like while you're waiting on a recruiter or a rep to get back to you, maybe you can click on the files button, see if they've posted anything that might be relevant to the company. Okay. So I know that was a lot. I'm gonna pause again to see if there are any questions. Couple other things. There is up here, right here, an orange need help button. If you experience a technical glitch, that need help button will give you a couple different ways to contact a CareerEco rep to get support. We, as your CPDC career consultants, will also be available during the fair. There will be dedicated staff who are going to be on hand just to answer your questions. We're not totally sure whether we're going to have a booth in CareerEco like we used to for our other virtual fairs, or whether we'll just be available for drop-in appointments during the fair. But definitely don't panic, because there will be we'll be there to help you if you need it. You know, the only other thing I would say when we're talking about chatting is, you know, just be conscious of what you're saying in the group chat room. Also be, you know, considerate of a recruiter's time. If you're going to initiate a private chat with a recruiter, you really want to make sure that you're thoughtful about what you're saying, that you've done your research, that you have good questions to ask, because you don't want to initiate a private chat and then kind of have nothing to say and wait for them to drive the conversation. I think taking that initiative and really showing that you know about the company, you have questions, you know what jobs are posted, is really going to help to make you stand out. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah, questions.
I have a question. Chat room environment, you mentioned that like recruiters might be like giving presentations or kind of talking about general topics. Is it also kind of like, do they also respond to people individually within the large chat? And like at what point, like when is it like appropriate to ask questions specific to you? And like, is there like some kind of etiquette for when you should ask to like talk to them privately?
Yeah, these are all fantastic questions. And unfortunately, there's no standard answer for what that group chat room experience is going to be. It's really going to differ from employer to employer. We anticipate that some employers will use the group chat to give a general presentation, where it may be the rep or the recruiter using their video to talk to everybody. It may be that they're showing slides. Or it may be that they have, you know, 8 reps staffed in that group chat room, and that they're going to take the time to try to respond to individual questions. So in terms of etiquette in the group chat room, I think, you know, as long as you're asking, you're aware of the fact that whatever you're asking is going to be seen by everybody, and you're okay with that. It's okay to ask about open jobs. It's okay to ask about company culture. It's okay to express your interest. If you have a really specific question and you want to talk to somebody one-on-one, then go ahead and request an individual chat with one of the reps. There's no protocol as to, you know, how or when you should do that. If that company decides that they don't want students to be able to contact them, then they're going to turn off that feature. So if it's not turned off, then you can assume that they're okay with you doing that. So I would say go for it. If you're able to, go ahead and try to have an individual one-on-one chat with that rep.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions right now? All right. Matthew, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Sorry.
Okay.
Great. So you can show up all of the bullet points all at the same time. So I just want to give you some brief tips here. First and foremost, celebrate yourself. If you do a fair, it's a major step in your career to put yourself out there. So take a moment to do that. And then after you do that, follow up really involves what you would normally do. If you made promises, follow through on them. So if you're going to get back to someone, if you are going to give a piece of information, make sure that you're doing so. Thank you notes are always nice. In this kind of environment, there's not a standard way to handle this. You might be interacting at different levels with different people. So we might just say those key employers and helpful, engaging interactions. You might want to consider an email as a way to express sincerity and interest, but we're certainly not saying that you need to send an email to every person that you've interacted with if it's a very more superficial level. You might want to also connect with people and make sure to follow through on any application process with employers that you're particularly interested in. We talked about other resources. Some of them are on Handshake, including Big Interview. So that's a great tool for you to practice your interviewing skills. It's got a new feature this term on using some artificial intelligence to give you some additional feedback, but it's a great resource for you practicing, particularly since a lot of it is a virtual environment, and we recommend that. And also be organized. So keep track of this, whether you're a spreadsheet person, check the box, to-do list, however you do it, just make sure that you're doing that. I also want to point out, next slide, some overall recruiting processes that are happening here through Carnegie Mellon. And that is, of course, the Encompass, TOC, and Converge in September. Spark will be happening for startups and emerging companies in October. We're also planning a virtual international opportunities fair. And then later on next term, there's the Spring Encompass and CAOC, and then also UI, UX careers opportunities. So look for those, as well as regular networking, information sessions, and other things that are happening throughout the year. And as we talked about earlier, keep track of Handshake and put that on your schedule to just look through those, as well as any newsletters that maybe either your consultant and or your academic advisors are sending. There's some great information that we put out there, so keep track of that so you look at other ways to engage with our employer partners. Next one. Here are some of the resources that are available to you. That video is the one that we went through together. There's also a PDF created by CareerEco that has more screenshots if you like to see it visually in a screenshot fashion. So you'll be able to have that resource there. We recommend that you can use VMock as well to prep for your resume and get that polished as much as possible. We also have our career launch course that has many different features on the Canvas system. It's a great resource for you, and we strongly encourage you to use that too. And of course, your career consultant is available for other questions and resources for you. So with that, we do have some more time now for questions and look forward to them. So how can we help you?
And I know there were some questions in the chat that I'll try to get to as well. Someone asked if you can upload different resumes. Oh, Lisa, it looks like you already answered that. You can upload different resumes. You can make one a default resume. If you have other changes to your resume after you've uploaded it to your profile, you could also offer to send it to that recruiter separately. Will we know which companies plan to disable the private chat feature? We're not going to know that in advance. I am not sure actually how or if that may be indicated in the platform, other than you won't be able to click that initiate private chat button. But we can try and find out if there's any other icon or something that will pop up. But nevertheless, you still want to be prepared, because even if you can't initiate a private one-on-one, that company rep can still initiate one with you. All right, other questions?
About the timeline, is like, when can we kind of expect, like, if we get an interview or something, when can we expect them to like want to interview us, and like what's sort of the time scale they use to like get back to people, or is that like completely dependent on the company?
Yeah, it's pretty dependent on the company. I would say it's something that, if they reach out to you via a message, you can always ask them about their timing, but there's no standard for when that might take place.
And also too, we casually made reference to it, but it's important too that this fair, as in previous fairs and events, could be a networking opportunity. Some companies might use it as a networking and not strictly a job or internship position too. So just recognize that value in that as well.
And then Tate asked if we know yet if spring career fairs will be virtual or in person. That's a great question. I wish I knew, but we really don't know yet. If I had to take a guess, I would say virtual, only because our spring career fairs really happen pretty early, usually in February. So, I would love it if by February we could all gather in large groups again, but I'm just not sure at this point.
I had a question.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, after the career fair, when we apply to jobs that the recruiter has recommended, how do we let the employer know that we had a communication with the recruiter at the fair?
So if you're using a cover letter, you can always mention that in the cover letter, that you learned more about the position through your conversation with Sam Smith during the virtual career fair. Otherwise, it's something that, maybe you could talk about during an interview, but typically I think the cover letter is the best way to indicate if you've had a prior conversation with somebody at the company.
Yeah. And some companies might have a little bit more open process than others. Larger companies might not put their recruiters available for particular contact, but others do. So really take note of that and make mention of that when you first engage with them during this event. So great question about the follow-up.
Is it like weird or rude to like ask for like the name of the hiring manager that like would be working in your department or whatever, so that you can like properly address your cover letter?
No, that's not rude at all. I think it's perfectly fine to ask if they would mind sharing the name of that person. And if they if they do mind sharing it, or if that person doesn't want their name to get out there, they'll just say, we prefer not to share that. But it's totally fine to ask, as long as you're doing so in a way that's polite.
It's a free event for you. There were some questions about that. Our employers do pay a fee to be part of this event. There will be another workshop live session that Krista and I will host closer to the fair on the evening of the 9th of September.
Mm-hmm. And there will be also a workshop for grad students that the grad consultant team is putting on. I'm not sure exactly when that one is, but it will be under the Handshake events. You'll be able to find the Zoom link and the exact details.
Okay, well, it looks like we're at time, but thank you again so much for working with us and asking some of these great questions. You're giving us good things to think about as well. And have a look at that system, and thank you so much for your participation.
Thanks, everybody.